It is Thursday evening. It is 8:05 here in Phoenix, Arizona. So you know what that means. Come on. It's time for live at 8:05. It's time for live at 8. Yes, it is time for live at 8:05. Good evening, wherever you are. Maybe it's good morning, maybe it's good afternoon. But I'm so glad that you are taking your time to join me today to see what we have going on here on Live at 8:05. So, for those of you that have been watching all year long, I have a different guest coming on every single week, and so we have had some amazing guests coming on my broadcast here, my little talk show live at 8:05. We have had people that were guests from other states. So we've had Texas, we've had Florida, we've had right here in Phoenix, Arizona, we've had couples that were homeless with their 4 children. We've had transgender, formerly women that were living as men and have since changed their lives and their lifestyles. We have had a little bit of everything. We've had a stylist that's currently living in Atlanta, Georgia, on our show before, talking about how to dress for your body type and how to show up in the world. Okay, so we've had so many great guests, so many different topics that have been discussed here on Live at 8:05 this year 2019, since January. And so if you have missed any episode at all of live, you know that you can go back and watch those videos. You sure can. If you search, so here on Facebook, where you would put in your friend's name, that before, just put in hashtag live at 8:05. So hashtag live, the at sign, or actually live 805, and it will pull up all of the previous live at 8:05 videos that I have done. So make sure that you do that so you can see what you might have missed. But for tonight,
Yay.
I'm super excited. So, as I said, we've had all kinds of different topics that we've discussed. And tonight, I think we are going to have what has to be the love story of the century, the long distance relationship of the year. And all of that, just how the distance and the trial and all of it just gives I think the harder our story is, the tougher our situation is, the more glory God gets when it all turns around for our good, just like you said it would in the word. And so even the smallest situation that has happened to us, when it turns around, it gives God glory. So when it is this seemingly impossible thing, and we know that nothing is impossible for our God, right? So when it seems completely impossible, it's not going to happen, cancel the whole plan, and God turns it around. That's amazing. So with that said, hello, Candace and Phill.
Hi, how are you?
Yay!
Yay.
Good. How are you?
Good.
We're
Thank
doing
you for
good.
having us. We're excited.
Awesome. Awesome. I see your mommy on there.
Hi, Mom.
Minister Evelyn Gaskin. So thank you guys for taking your time tonight to be on here with us all. And so I just want to kind of jump in and first of all, get to know you guys a little bit. So tell us your name, tell us where you're from, how old you are if you want, or just help us to know a little bit about you guys.
All right. My name is Philip Dankwah. Originally from West Africa, Ghana. I'm from the eastern region, eastern part of Africa, eastern part of Ghana, but I was raised up in the capital city, Accra. Yeah.
I am Candace Gaskin-Dankwah. I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, and then I've lived in Phoenix for probably almost 20 years now. So I'm a native Arizonan, which is kind of rare. I grew up in church. I took a different path when I had the decision to had the opportunity to make my own decision. And through this process, I definitely have developed a relationship with God and had the opportunity to get back into church and find church family and home.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, and let me add, I think we are three. I'm the oldest. I have a little brother and I have a young sister. Yeah,
Okay.
so
Hi,
I'm the,
Abigail. Hi, Alex. I know you guys will watch soon.
Yeah, yeah. So that's cool. So tell us, you're from Ghana, West Africa,
right.
and Candace is from a little town called Tucson in
Mm-hmm.
Arizona, United States of America. How? How did,
Wow.
please tell us, how did you meet?
First of all, thank you for the question.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate it. And
I'll
I'm
start.
always gonna say that this can only be God. That's the whole thing tonight. This can only be God. So always after coming out from a really bad relationship, I've been dating a lot of like people in Ghana, like women, and I'm like, I wanted to date someone from, the francophone, like someone who speaks French, someone from, other part of Africa. And with this type of French ladies, they have these big eyes. And I was on a dating app and I saw this lovely woman with her eyes and her big forehead, which is so cute. And I'm like, well,
You better receive that, Candace. Big forehead. Sometimes it's like,
It worked. It worked.
we do the bangs. And
Look, let me get my swoop back.
Girl, I'm with you. Like, come on.
and I came across this lovely lady profile and I'm like, well, let me send her a message. And I did send her a message, but because of the time difference, she did not respond. Thinking that she was close to me. She was in Gabon. Because I normally see Gabon women to be really attractive, like they are francophone speaking country, yeah.
Explain a francophone.
Like French. They were colonized by the French.
So like African women colonized by French have like different features
Okay.
and different like personality. So here I am in Phoenix, Arizona, and I was a single mom. I had overcome an abusive relationship. I had gotten myself on my feet. I had put myself through school. I had worked my way up in a career, and I'm like, what's next? I wasn't in church, so at that time I'm looking for love in all the wrong places. And one of my girlfriends said, there's this dating app, and she had met somebody on it, and I'm like, another one. But, I thought, here's an opportunity to give it a try. I had dated online before. I was not successful. So I went ahead and I created a profile, but I was doing it on my way to work. I didn't put much thought into it because they had not been fruitful. I almost kind of did it just to go through the motions, just to appease her and say, look, I did it. But the paragraph I had put from my angle, I thought that I had been a really genuine, and I was pretty straightforward on the about me part. What I was looking for, I hadn't really had a relationship with God since I was younger, but I was so emotional putting the profile up. Sitting in my car taking a picture, I just started talking out loud, like, there's something missing in my life. I am looking for a type of love. My family loves me. I have a great support system, but there was something missing. And I got really emotional. And I remember sitting there crying and thinking, you know what? Whatever's going to come of it's going to come. And it may not even be this, but like I remember that feeling like, wow, I feel really sad. So I put the picture up, went to work, and I had gotten a message from somebody, forgot to set my filters. Forgot to set, I want this height, this weight, this eye. I'm like super specific, but this is a lesson. Take the filters off because you never know who's out there. And I used to say, like, I'm not going to date anybody that's like 20 minutes away. It's too far. 30 minutes is too far. So here I see this message and it's like West Africa. And I'm like, okay, delete.
Right.
This is a joke. Yeah, not gonna work. So then I got another message and I'm like, the same guy. Delete. And then it happened again, and I'm like, okay, this is either spam or a scam. Like, this can't be real. So I ignored it again. But the fourth time, I opened it, and Philip sent a message, and it was like, you have a beautiful smile. I hope you're having a good day. And it was something really like genuine. And I was like, oh, that was really nice. Let me at least respond and say, like, I appreciate your interest. I appreciate your compliment. That was really sweet of you. I hope you have a good day. And then you sent another one, but he didn't respond to me at first. So I'm like, okay, I knew this wasn't going to work. Keep going. I didn't realize, I didn't even contemplate the time difference. So then I sent another message because I'm like, wait, you're not going to send me all these messages and not respond. And then I got a response like 2 days later. And so we kept having this weird rapport. There was like a lot of time. And then one day we got on at the same time.
And once, like, it's always a stigma that once you are far away, like, people think it's a catfish or it's a game, like you try to
Scam.
to use someone's picture or something like that. So
Yeah.
I'm like, Candace was thinking I was not for real, and I'm like, you're also too beautiful to be real on the dating app. And I'm like, let's have a video conversation. And at that time the first time we Skyped. So I have to stay up. I'm like, I'm gonna wait for her to close from work so that we can both get on a video call and see each other, whether she's for real.
Yeah.
And whether she's not having any disabilities, like I'm also not having any disabilities.
Things we didn't say
Like
to
things
each
we
other.
didn't see. Some people can post certain pictures and
I think that's really interesting because while Candace, you're like, oh, something's probably not. He's also like, oh yeah, something.
Too good to be true.
Yeah.
From the outside.
So I mean, I told her that she should create a Skype. I also created one. I got on and I waited when she closed from work. I'm like, okay, let's video talk. So it will just keep connecting, and I get anxious. I'm like, why are you playing games with me?
And I'm sitting there trying to figure out how to connect, how to get set up.
Oh no.
And but we finally connected, and it was like, wow, like he looks like the pictures. He had a beautiful smile. He was like really excited. But I thought, honestly, I'm like, the best thing that could happen is like I'll meet somebody from far away. This will be really cool experience to talk to somebody with like different lifestyle, different background. I didn't have any like romantic expectation. So I guess the conversation became really natural because he's all the way across the world. I wasn't trying to be cute and like sit up, straight and be like, ooh, we were like friendly. And the thing that really stood out is Philip said, tell me about your day. And I was like, well, I went to work. You know that. You waited for me. This is what I wore. And he goes, no. He goes, tell me about your day. And so I was like, well, I woke up, I did this. He's like, did you pray? And I was like, whoa, did you pray? And then we got into this like a great conversation about like where our hearts were and like what we grew up learning about God and what we wanted in the future about God. And I, mind you, like had not gone to church in years except for Mother's Day, Easter, and Christmas. I knew that I wanted to raise my daughter, and at this point she was about 5 years old. She was going to church with my mom, but we had talked about how, like, not each other, but, we definitely wanted to raise our children the way we grew up. But ourselves, we realized and had this really deep conversation about how we had made decisions on our own that didn't align with how we grew up and how we wanted to grow. And different things we were talking about, how do we get back on track individually? And when we got off the phone 7 hours later, I was like, that's the deepest conversation I've ever had with anybody, let alone a stranger across the world.
And within the 7 hours, like she's talking too fast, easy. Even though like now we can talk and understand each other, I think how my English was kind of funny at times, so it was hard for her to understand me.
Okay.
When I talk, Candace will go like, What
Oh,
are you
yeah.
saying? And when she talks, I'm like, why are you talking so fast? Why are you drinking a hot tea? Because like the American English, the slangs, she was talking so fast, and it was so hard for me to understand her. So at times, a conversation that we're supposed to use 30 minutes to,
Stretch out longer.
at times, we stretch it out long.
But it was a good conversation. It was a
Yeah.
good
You know,
conversation.
your mom is in the comments. She said, I'm going to give Candace 5 to 10 minutes before she needs a Kleenex.
I'm gonna make it through this. I'm gonna make it through it.
If you're anything like your mom, which I know your mom, there will be Kleenex involved.
Yeah, there will. We'll get to the good part. So we kept talking. I would get home from work, and it would probably be like 3 a.m. Phillips time. I would wait till like 11 p.m. midnight. My daughter to sleep. I got my stuff ready for the next day, and Philip would wake up, and we would talk for like as long as we could until I had to go to bed at like 5 a.m. and get up at 7 a.m. And we just, everyone, it's you can't stop talking, and it's like we had such good conversation because we had different backgrounds and we had different culture to really compare and relate to, but we had so many similarities as far as our interests and things that really pertain to like our future. And I was like, this is something super different. Like, this guy is really cool. Every time we get off the phone, it was like, don't forget where we left off, because we had really great, oh, you're sweet, really great stories. And so that was one thing that really kept the momentum going for probably about 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months after November,
What are some of the
December,
things
January.
What are some of the things you guys had in common? I mean, being from two totally different continents, two totally different cultures, yet you had some things in common. What did you have in common?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna say how she thinks. Always, I'm gonna say that what you pray, that's what you get. I'm like always, I want to marry a woman who is vibrant, someone who talks, someone who is not gonna make my home boring. So when we started talking, I always like the fact that always Candace is keeping up. And even though I also like to talk, but I like to talk in my language. With English, I kind of take it cool. But when I'm speaking Tree, I talk fast and I have more control.
So what do we have in common?
So
How I think.
no, I'm not. Let me talk. One, I think our sense of humor. Yeah, sense of humor. That's one thing we have in common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a lot of like interest in like history. My perspective as a Black American woman and his perspective as an African man, like we had so much interest in our own history that we had this really great parallel of like where our cultures meet historically. And so we would spend a lot of time comparing things of
Right.
books we had read, things we had researched, genealogy. Philip can trace back his lineage. My uncle does a lot with like our family's history. So we just had a lot of like shared interest in that regard, as well as like family. Like family is really big for both of us and the time that we spend. And I think that was probably like the biggest draw is sometimes when you meet new people, there's like this different levels of conversation, like almost like a superficial, you get deeper. But I felt like we started at like a deeper point, and it was stuff that was like really interesting. Like we didn't have like, what's your favorite color? Which nothing wrong with it, but we just jumped off to a different point because it's almost like a lot of things culturally didn't really matter because we were in such different worlds. Like the things that I would think are like very formal introduction, like he has a completely different perspective on what you do and you don't discuss, and how how you approach a conversation. And the way he said the way I thought, but I also thought, wow, like he's really intelligent, like he's really well versed in so many different things. And I think my car broke down one time, and Philip's like walking me through how to change my oil, and I'm like, let me call AAA. Like,
What?
how do you even know this stuff? And he's like, look
What
under
is
your
beautiful?
hood and do this and
Over
that,
the
and look for
phone?
this, and over the phone. I'm like, how do you know what my car looks like? And he
Right.
he just a lot of different things. I'm like, this is really cool, really cool. And then like I would go to work and people would be like, who, and I'm like,
was really
I had to,
exciting.
it was exciting, but it was like I had to protect it because then I started relaying, like, what is going to come of this? Like, I didn't have any plans to go to Ghana. I didn't think it was like realistic to be like, okay, let me meet somebody I'm just talking to. And so we started talking about like, would you come visit me in Phoenix? And being super naive to how visas work.
That's the whole story,
I
guys.
just thought you apply for a visa, you get on the plane and you go. So I think this is probably like 2 months into like constant conversation, we started talking about what's the next step, because we really had, I think I started developing
Yeah,
emotion.
because already I was thinking that it was gonna be kind of easy for me to get a visa to come into the United States because I've been to England, and I was thinking it was gonna be easy.
He could
So
take a quick trip, like a
I'm
week.
like, I couldn't wait to meet Candace in person. And I mean, after we had our video conversation, our first video conversation, I stood up. I'm like, Candace, can you see me? Can you see my leg? Can you see my hand? Everything is
Like
functioning
you worked,
perfect.
you look like the pictures. Because we would joke, like so many people we knew had funny stories about like the
Yeah.
person not being the person. So then you said something special to me.
The funny thing is that I was going through all the chat this morning. I'm like, wow, this is how far we've been able to come.
And he said, probably like 3 months later, he said, I have something really special I want to tell you. And I was thinking, he got a ticket. He's coming to visit. He's going to come all the way to Phoenix. And I started rambling. I'm like, well, you need to figure out a hotel. I have to work, so I can probably only spend a couple days with you to show you around Arizona. I think I got nervous, like, wow, he's going to fly all the way over here to meet me. And like, even it's a big deal. And I have emotions, and we were really like drawn close, but it made me really nervous. And then I thought, I need to tell my friends, like, this guy doesn't even live in Phoenix. And my mom had known, like, I was talking to somebody, but I think up to that point, it was like, there wasn't any substance that I expressed outwardly. So I don't know that anybody realized, like, we were really falling in love.
Yeah, and also, I think with my family, because I'm the firstborn and the first grandson from, both maternal and paternal, like all my cousins look up to me. So I told my parents that there is this lady I've met on the internet, and they are like, who is that internet? And my dad is always funny. He's like, who is that internet you've met? And I'm like, no, I met a lady on the internet. And he was like, no, who is the internet? I'm like, no, I met a lady on the internet. And I have to tell them how we met and everything. So at times, once I'm trying to video talk with Candace and my parents come over my house, I'll let them get on video and say hello to her. And they're like, oh, she has a beautiful smile. And they're like, oh, so when are you guys going to meet? Which part of Accra is she? They were thinking that she was in Ghana. I'm like, no, she's
Arizona.
in the United States, Arizona.
And likewise. So that's when I had started actually going to church. And so it's like these parallels of like falling in love happening at the same time. So I applied for my visa. I told my mom I am thinking about going to Ghana, and she'll probably correct me. Her first was like, you're going where for what? And I said, well, I'm going to go meet Philip. And then I had to explain who Philip was and how far we had grown. And it was just a thought. And out of love, and I mean, because I could imagine if my daughter said, I'm going across the world to meet a stranger, I'm in love, and I'm going a place I've never been. I've never met his family, don't know his friends. So she gave me so much advice and wisdom, pray about it. Did you do this? Did you check that? So then I would put her on Skype when we were talking so that she would at least see he's a real person. He really looks like what he looked like here. We're having like genuine conversation. And I think we did that for a while. And then I think we got to 4 months, which when anyone else tells me stories and they're like, oh, you know, we met, we fell in love in 3 months. I used to be like, wow, but you can never compare yourself to someone else's timeline. And I
Very true.
learned in so many situations throughout this experience, time is only relative to the people who calculate it. And we weren't even thinking about, oh, it's only been 2 months, 3 months. There was something really unique about like our dialogue and how I felt. So I got my passport, and then it was like real, like we're really going to do this. And
Like every part was exciting because she was not having a passport. So
yeah,
the day that she got her passport, it was a huge deal for us. I'm like, wow, you got your passport. And in my country, I'm gonna say in my culture, once someone comes, you have to make sure that because we've been talking, and I'm like, Candace, once you come to Ghana, my family people will not accept that we're gonna hang around, because once you introduce someone to your family, that means you are willing to marry them. You can't just
Wow.
bring anyone at home. So once they get to know that I was talking to Candace, they're like, are you ready to marry her? It's not that she's gonna come and, you guys are gonna have fun. And so we always wanted to do the right things. And they're like,
Yeah.
well, we see engagement to be a really huge deal.
like a wedding, like their traditional ceremony is comparable to like our wedding, but I didn't know that. So Philip had said, you know, when we got serious, I'm thinking about introducing you to my parents, and I know that I want to marry you. And while you're here visiting in Ghana, we're going to do a traditional ceremony, a knocking ceremony, where traditionally the groom and his family and friends would travel to like the bride's family, and they would all formally go through these different spiritual passages and passing on advice and wisdom, while the groom's family like approached and out of respect asked the bride's family for marriage. And I'm thinking, wow, how cool is that? Like, as an outsider, like that's such an interesting thing culturally. Like, I would love to be a part of it. And I'm thinking, very low key, I'm like, that'll be a great way to meet his family and for him to like express his intent. And then like things move fast. So then I got my plane ticket. Philip's helping me get set up to come to Ghana. I think I left my mom in shock, but I'm the daughter that, I'm the kid that always would probably go a little farther than anybody else would expect. Like I have a
Yeah,
sense of adventure.
she just posted
Oh,
in the comments. For those of you that are
I'm sure.
watching and wondering what her mom thought, Evelyn Gaskin in the comments is her mother. So you can it's kind of cool because it's like she's on the video with us. But she said, oh Jesus, that's when I flipped my weave.
She did.
Wow. I mean, I just
It
posted in the
was,
comments, to the viewers, what would you say if your daughter told you, I'm flying to another country to meet a stranger? Like you said, I flew to meet a stranger. And so it'll be cool to see what people say in the comments. But wow. So go ahead.
I wasn't, I wasn't even in the mind to think, what if it was like what could be. And I think I got excited thinking about like the literal adventure. Like I had only been to Mexico, so to me this was a really cool growth experience, to see his culture, to go to the country. But then Philip starts sending me links to wedding rings and engagement rings, and asking for my measurements so that his aunt could make us, you know, like traditional wear. So then I'm thinking, well, you
Wow.
just said I was going to meet your family at like a small traditional gathering just to express to them how you felt about me.
Right.
So as we get closer and closer to my trip, he starts asking me about cake and what kind of things I like to eat. And I'm like, so this is a bigger deal than I thought it was. And he goes,
Right.
oh, yeah.
What's really going on?
Really? And then he said it's just going to be like my close friends and family. So cut to, I travel to Ghana. I get off the plane. We could spend a whole nother hour on how dope that experience was. Like that trip changed my life.
So let me ask a question. So
Hmm.
you buy this ticket to Ghana. How much does a ticket to Ghana cost?
Wow, at times it costs 1,700, 1,500. Yeah, 17, 15. Yeah.
That trip was probably, I'll
Wow.
say, like $1,200. Oh yeah, Philip had to really show me he wanted me to come because that was a joint effort. And that's another reason I felt like, okay, nobody. I had a very like comfort in knowing I don't think he's trying to scam me. Like this is pretty legit because we had to like collaborate on getting me to Ghana because I wasn't gonna come out of pocket to go meet a stranger
That you don't know.
that I don't know and
And
put a lot of invest that kind of money or time into that situation. So that I think was also a good opportunity too. Like we had to have a slate a pit plan to save,
mhm.
and then like get there and enjoy.
I mean, being in this country, I can tell how it's not easy to travel. It makes me really appreciate Candace more because, I mean, being in the United States, once you tell me to travel to another country that I don't know, I think it's a huge prize. So anytime I look at her, I'm like, wow. And anytime she comes to Ghana, they're like, what's this young woman doing in this continent? Like, what's she doing over here?
Oh yeah, people were skeptical when I got there. Like why I would go there, but that we'll get to that. We had a lot of
Okay.
interesting reaction. Um, so I land in Ghana. It was Easter morning,
Hmm.
and I think I was overwhelmed because I've never been away from my mom during the holidays, or my daughter. And
Yeah.
getting off
There
the
by yourself.
plane, I traveled by
Yeah.
myself. And it's funny because when I would check in at the different airports, they'd be like, "You're traveling alone. Have you ever been to Ghana?" And when you go through customs, they were like, "What business do you have in this country? Do you have family?" And I'm like thinking, wow, they're even asking. So, and my mom, I had registered with the, what do you call it? Our U.S. embassy, they knew I was in Ghana. My mom had numbers to everybody, everywhere, everything. Um, so I had done like that, the planning for that.
Yeah.
But I got off that plane and I was so nervous because then it hit me like there's a big sign that says Aquaba, like welcome to Ghana. And I get off the plane. And remember, I grew up in Arizona. So like my mix of diversity and what I've been exposed to was completely different. And I got off the plane and it was just, I
The
had culture
weather.
shock. The weather, it's humid. And then I'm like nervous, like I'm gonna go meet this guy. Where's Philip? Like this is really a big deal. And I think when that hit me, I was like, oh, whoa. And this engagement ceremony is about to happen. That was scheduled the next day. And it all sounds good on the phone until you land in the
That's
foreign
all.
country.
Sure.
So
But
my aunties used to work at the airport, and Candace was nervous. I know that she's gonna feel some kind of way. So I told my aunties that they are not gonna allow me through to get close to the
through security.
through security. So I told my aunties, they already knew how she looked like. So there were three of my aunties, and they saw Candace and like, that's it, that's it, that's it. And they went and hugged her. So my aunties even saw her first before I did see Candace. And they text me, she's beautiful, Philip,
Oh,
just get
yay.
ready.
That was so
Wow.
exciting.
Was it a
Because you
big thing?
always, it was pretty big. It was a big, and it was big. It was big. It
Pretty,
wasn't what I thought. Say that again.
was it pretty busy? A lot of people?
Oh,
Yeah,
so when you exit the Kotoko Airport, it's not like there's multiple exits, like meet me at Terminal 4, South Entrance, Gate Door 9. It's
every,
one.
everyone
So
comes in.
when you're in arrival, there's one door. So, and there's like stanchions for people waiting to stand behind. So when everyone walks out, there's
Everyone,
hundreds
the
of
people
people,
who
like
see me.
seas of people
Wow.
waving, holding signs, trying. So when you walk out at first, you're like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like what you see on TV, everyone's like waving and yelling and cheering. And because it was Easter Sunday, there were people singing like different hymns and like songs outside and dancing. And so it was just really cool. And so these Philip's aunts grabbed me up and they were all dressed in these beautiful dresses. And I was like, wow, they're so sweet. And then they were like, come, come, come. And And then I saw Philip, and I was like, wow. The first thing I was like, he looks way better than the picture. And I hope he thinks I look good too.
And I'm
Because
like, yeah, that's my short woman.
oh yeah, so Philip, I knew he was tall, and he knew I was 5'1", but
But I couldn't know how 5'1" was like.
we stood next to each other, and people were laughing and cheering, and his brother was there, his friends were there, his aunts were there, like all these people to support, and I was really excited. So we went straight from the airport. I met his parents. We went to his aunt's house. She had made our outfits. We went to go get fitted, and we went to Philip's house, and there's people dropping off tents and chairs and setting tables up and putting tablecloths on and setting up those catering line buffet tables. And I'm like, you said it was just your family. And he was like, oh, don't worry. This is just we're just getting things ready.
What?
Don't. And he's like, it's going to be an all day event. And I'm thinking, okay, but I'm so excited. And we wanted to meet friends and have dinner with people and like me get acclimated. So, whew.
Because my family, my mom and my dad told me that since Candace is here, I should just have time for her. First of all, they were telling me that I should sleep in a different room and I should allow her to sleep in a different room before we get the engagement done. And I'm like, no, she just got to the country. How am I going to let her sleep alone? So we have to, stay up
All night. But we were getting ready for the engagement, which culturally is a wedding. So now I'm like here and I'm excited, but I call it engagement, but the knocking ceremony is a traditional wedding. Mm-hmm. And so
Girl.
The next morning, it was like,
I'm like, wait a minute. So it's so crazy because I went from like, oh my God, the airport. Oh my God. He's so short. He's so tall. Oh, it's so beautiful. And now I'm like, girl, what? Wow.
I was prepared for it because I knew we were moving that way. I knew this was like a week before, I knew it was like a really, really big deal. And I started having a better awareness of like what this meant for him and his family. And I wasn't even nervous about the commitment part because at this point we knew like one way or the other, like we were going to try to figure out how we were going to make this work. So we have this ceremony. I was emotional because I'm like, wow, like my dad had always talked about visiting Africa and going different places, and he had passed away when I was a teenager. But we went to these different summer camps where they taught different things about cultural history, and my parents had me in a dance camp, and I think those are the things. Oh yeah, I'll tell her. Things that just made me really sentimental. And I think as I saw Philip's family trickle in, I was like, wow, like I would have loved for my family to see this. And I'm trying to call my mom on video. And when I say like floods of people, everyone Philip has ever known in his life, it felt like the house was full, the courtyard was full. They had people coming and catering and music. They had security. That was overwhelming, but the traditional ceremony was such an honor to be a part of. It was beautiful. It was such an awesome experience. And I'm thinking like, wow, like this is somebody I'm going to spend my life with, but we're going to go back to Phoenix and have a wedding. Because I've got to do it the way that I felt like was solid. And I want my family to be there and experience it too. So I stayed in Ghana for a week, had an amazing time. And I thought, we got married in your way, but let me go back to America and let me see what it takes to get a visa for you to come back. And so you can meet my family.
Can I ask a question real quick? So
please.
Paula Thomas asked in the comments a couple minutes ago, how did you tell your daughter about your trip to Ghana?
Oh, that's a great question. So almost anytime I'd say past a couple months when I would be talking to Philip, Kaylin would come on and we would talk, and Philip would talk to her and teach her things about like his culture, or we would read books about different things and have like just general conversation.
Yeah, at times I'll do homework with her, and I still at times once I video talk with her, I try to take screenshots. So last week I showed Candace some of the screenshots.
She was really young.
Look at how little Kaylin was.
So she was 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
So for her, it was so cool. Like, there's this guy on the phone who's teaching me about culture and like a TV show, and he's teaching me how to do my homework. And but it was very like, this is Philip, and I don't think I had defined what it was. I just wanted there to be, and it's really funny talking about how we were just on Skype. It wasn't like a face-to-face, and like that became like our reality. We didn't even know it was going to become a reality. But explaining it to her, it was like she knew I was going to go visit Philip. At this point, like, she knew that I told her that this was somebody that I wanted to have in my life and that he was really special. And I wanted her to be comfortable with him becoming part of her life. And she's so smart and intuitive. She's like, you're going to get married, or you're going to get married. And I told her, I am going to get married, but in this situation, like, I've got to go first to make sure that this is a comfortable situation for you to be in. And I'm pretty direct with how we communicate, or I speak to her. And so I think she understood it as much as a 5-year-old could comprehend it. But I knew that I had to get my trip and go see it first, meet his family. But there was a lot of like peace. I never felt like this guy's creepy or not genuine or authentic. I was relaxed. And I had a lot of comfort. And a lot of my friends would get married when I was younger, and I'd be like, how did you know? Because I think this one's it, and I think this one's it. And they'd always say, like, you really know, like, you have peace about it. You don't think about it. It just flows. And I felt like now I get it. Like, I understand. So I thought bringing Kaylin into it would be part of Philip coming to visit, me getting a fiance visa, which at the time, this was 2014. There wasn't a show. And if there was a show, I didn't know about it. I really naively, we thought you apply for the piece of paper, he comes, he can come see what this lifestyle would be like. And it was a good opportunity to see, is this actually going to be a long-term fit? Because there's one thing to talk to people, but like living day to day, which we'll get there, it's a different slice of a pie. Like, there's just different things that, and my mom was right, she told me this a while ago, like, you can't dictate like physical interaction and different things that the video won't capture when you Skype, or a telephone call won't pick up. So there was a lot of stuff that we were taking into account. So I come back to work a week later with a ring on. Because we got a lot to get through.
You see how she's talking. Let me talk.
Well, you go.
Phill, what would you add?
I mean, so the first time she was there for a week, and after the engagement, I think we went to the courthouse and signed as well. But we did that with my family, and the rest of the days we went to other sightseeing and other places of Ghana for her to, see how Ghana looks like. So, yeah.
Candace, tell everybody the story about the French fries.
Oh gosh, so we went out to a restaurant with Philip's brother and I think another friend, and I missed French fries and hamburgers. Like, I had so many different types of food. After a while, I was like, I really want French fries. And so I had ordered French fries, and the waiter was like, okay, got it. And he brought out fried rice. And I said, oh, I am so sorry. I said French fries. And I wasn't even going to send the rice back. I figured, you know what, I'll just add on the order of French fries. And he looked at me like I had two heads. And he said, what is a French fry? And I said, potato. I said, Philip, how would you explain it? And you said chips. And I said, well, why wouldn't you have told me that, thinking we all understood the same thing? And the gentleman that was serving us was uncomfortable because people don't send food back. And I wasn't even trying to send it back. I didn't want to be rude. I just wanted to add the order on. But they have a completely different thought process. Like, it's almost like embarrassing that he would mess up the order. And I think those are some things too we deal with now, understanding each other's culture. Like, there's a lot of pride in what they do and paying attention and being attentive and getting things right. Where here, I'm like, no big deal, order the French fries. Like, don't even say sorry. And those were some things too. Like, we learned a lot about each other's mannerisms and dialogue and facial. I'm realizing I'm very like emotionally expressive, and I have a lot of facial expression that go along with my tone and my verbiage. And
I am not like that. Yeah.
so I've had a lot of different understanding.
Yeah.
But so when I got back, I'm just going to kind of accelerate through. I went to file a fiance visa thinking what we had done in Ghana wouldn't legally stand here in America, so we'd come here and go through the process. I did my own research. I didn't think I needed any help. It was pretty straightforward what I thought online. File a bunch of paperwork. I had gotten a little bit of advice calling around different lawyers and like online forums. And I'm like, that was pretty easy. Like, I thought. Sent in all the paperwork, and it took probably about 2 months to hear back. And so now we're like missing each other and really excited. And probably about 6 months later, Philip got an interview, and we're like, "Phew, finally, this is going to be great." And we start planning his trip to America. And I get a phone call, and I'm waiting for him to call. I'm so excited. Now all my friends know, all my family knows. Everyone's like, well, we want to meet him. We want to see him, and you guys could get married here.
Yes,
And the
so-
store, and the Philip calls me and says they denied me. And I'm thinking, what do you mean? What? And they denied his visa because they said that we filed the wrong petition. We had gone through a traditional ceremony, and legally it's
Yes,
recognized as a legal marriage, which we were totally okay with, but I just didn't know that. We weren't aware of it. But you don't know that up front. You get through this whole process.
Wait.
You wait months and you find out. So that was like the first blow, because I'm thinking, wow, now I've got everyone excited. I'm excited. Now my daughter's like anticipating this, and we missed each other. Like, now I've met you. Now I want to be around you. We've had this really great experience.
Yeah,
So
listen, so we started talking in November 2013, and Candace was in Ghana in April 2014. So I went for my first interview in January of 2015.
Okay.
So already when she left, I was missing her. I'm like, when am I going to see her again?
Oh.
Like, distance in between us, even though we talked, but now it's like I've met her in person. So I want her more. So after I went for my first interview, and they're like, you guys had an engagement, so you married, so you guys should file for the right petition. I'm like, I told the counselor, no, I mean, this is the right thing we did, and we have to be around each other. And they're like, tell your wife to file for the right petition. Yeah.
So then we scramble. I go online again. I do a bunch of research. We had just had this huge trip. Philip's family had spent a lot of money. I couldn't fly back to Ghana to visit. Like, it just wasn't a reality for us. So it took a few months, and we finally found a lawyer that was willing to help us through the process to file for a spousal visa. That took about a year to even get off the ground. So now we've had about a year and a half go by where we haven't seen each other. A year and a half had gone by. So missing him so much, Skyping every day, calling on the phone. I think we were putting all of our eggs in this one basket that this lawyer's gonna do it. Like, I think a lot of things we struggled with were what if? And so at the same time, Philip had joined a church and started becoming really involved. I had joined Faith Christian Center and started becoming really involved. And so we're learning all these things independently as adults that I think were really critical for us to get through this process. and have like something to keep us going and motivate us. And you can only talk to somebody for so long without like, what's next? So then we started talking about, well, what did you learn at church today? Like what Bible verses? And we like found this new level of like communication and like talking about like different shared scriptures. And like developing a faith. And so I was excited because I'm seeing Philip grow and seeing these new people that he's meeting. And he's, you know, quoting things from different passages. We had a really good dialogue at this point. It was kind of like a refreshing, and he's seeing me grow in a lot of ways too. And I'm thinking, okay, like now I have a relationship with God, things are going to work out perfectly. Like now I know that if I pray, and I just thought everything's falling into place. Our lives are where we're supposed to be, and what's supposed to happen is happening. So a year and a half later goes by. I was able to go back to Ghana, visit Philip. We were getting things ready for him to come back. I'm like, I'll see you in a few weeks, because he was getting ready for his interview. I got a phone call, and this is now 2 years later. So I come back from this trip. Philip calls me, and I'm like so excited. I had like got new bedding. I'm like, my husband's coming. Like I'm looking at wedding invitations. We're going to have a wedding in Phoenix. My family's going to meet you. I mean, I was ready. And Philip's crying on the phone, and I'm like, oh, he's excited. And he couldn't even talk. And I'm like, there's no way we would get denied twice. Like now we did the right petition. We had a lawyer. We were on it. And he's like, they didn't give it to me. And I broke down. It was a 2-year process to get to the point where we're at. And like phone calls just weren't, it did not feel like we would ever have, like, how do you keep it going? And I remember we had conversations like, are we strong enough with how we've grown to make it if we had more time between us being together in person? And we couldn't even talk on the phone. I think I couldn't comfort him. He couldn't comfort me. Like I was devastated. And I remember I fell apart because I'm thinking, God, like now I go to church. Now I read my Bible. We did things the right way. Like we both have gotten our life on track. Why? I was so hurt. And it actually like surfaced feelings of when my dad had passed away, like this feeling of loss, and you have no control. You can't even, Philip couldn't talk to me because he was so emotional. And so I felt like I was kind of grieving, like we weren't with each other. I couldn't call the embassy. I couldn't call anybody to say why and you're wrong. I couldn't fly there and say, hold on, let me explain this and that. That was probably a real turning point, because after that whole day was just a really bad day. But I remember laying on the floor just talking out loud. Wasn't even like praying the way I thought I was like I thought I was used to have to pray like this. I was just laying on the floor, and I was like, I have had faith and this whole time. And a lot of time people are like, well, now I have faith. I had faith through the whole process, but I hadn't calibrated my faith and put it in the right things. The first time I had faith in myself. I'm like, Google will get me through. YouTube, I put all my faith in my own energy. Second time, here we are, I'm laying on the floor devastated. I'd put all the faith in the lawyer. I had put all the faith in everything other people we had met through the process had told us. And I had this acknowledgement in that moment. I didn't have all my faith in God. I was still like growing as a baby Christian. I didn't put the trust and faith that God would do it. I thought we would work it out. We would figure this part of our life out. And what could we have done? That was such a bad moment. But I ended up getting off the floor because I realized it wasn't even within my control. And I had to let it go. My daughter was coming home from school, and I remember thinking, I don't want her to come home and see me falling apart, because this is now where what I thought was faith is being tested. Like, wow. Now I have to really stand on all this stuff I had learned. When things are going good, it's easy to read your Bible, and I get it. I understand, and God loves me, and I could quote scripture, and I had it in my heart. But I didn't have anything that challenged it. I didn't have anything that really
Wow.
made me think, is this what God meant?
For it to
Until
happen.
that day, it was like, wow. Um, so here
You know,
we are.
Candace, your mom had a really good question. She was for Phill. Philip, she's asking, how did your family feel? Like your wife is 1,000 miles away, and you're in
7,000.
your culture. You guys are married. You're not engaged. You guys are married. So
Right.
how are your friends? What are they saying? And then how were you feeling about all of it?
Well, at that point, like most of my friends, I used to be around them, friends that I work with, and all of that. So I think I was the first person to get married when it comes to my friends. So after some years, some of my friends are now getting married. They are having families. They are excited. They are happy. And I'm like, once I can't even get close to my friends. They are anytime I get close to them, they are like, look at the life you are living. You say you marry someone far away from you. And now look at us. My wife is next to
Wow.
me. We having a baby and all of that. So at that point, I have to stay away from my friends and just get close to church more because
Wow.
that's the place I felt I can get comfort. And with my family, my mom was kind of worried. She's like, you are a man. And I'm like, I know you drive to town, you will be seeing other women and all of that. But how does she feel? If she's willing to relocate, I think you guys can come up. She can come to Ghana and, settle down for you guys to navigate through the process till things get better. So my mom was hoping that Candace will relocate to Ghana. They were not comfortable. They were not happy about it, especially me being their
Born not having kids yet.
firstborn, and
Mm.
yeah. So it wasn't easy. It
Oh,
wasn't easy. And on my family, that's why they asked me over and over, is this something I want to do? Before we were going to have our engagement, they asked me a whole lot of questions. It wasn't like you just do it. They sat me down for almost, a couple of times, and we have all these conversations. So it's like you getting yourself involved into something, like putting your hand in the food of a ghost. You can't just take your hand out of it again. So it was a
mm.
huge test. And I had faith. I know that faith makes things possible, but it doesn't make things easy. So I just have to, hold on and just, I'm like, there is a price for everything. So even though family and friends are going to say things that will hurt me, I'm like, I leave everything to God. In His time, things will be possible. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you guys handle a big question for most people in a long distance relationship? My husband and I were in a long distance relationship for 2 years. The distance was definitely not as long as your distance, but I mean, sometimes an hour away from someone that you love seems like
Hmm.
forever
Hmm.
away. But I know a big question is faithfulness. And
Right.
so I know friends were like, you think he's being faithful to you, girl? And you know he's fine. And you know the girls are trying to holler at him. And, or vice versa. Like, Philip, were your friends, because you mentioned that your mom was saying that you're going to see beautiful women in town. Were
Right.
your friends asking you, Philip, like, are you really being faithful to this woman
Oh,
who
they
is
always
making
monitor me. My
with?
friends, my friends always want to have a fault. Like they want to see whether like I'll make a mistake. So at times they will come around, Philip, let's go out, let's go hang out. They just want to take me to
No,
places. So once they come, I'm like, no, I'm going to church. We have a church service. So
you
God
better
was
come
being so
on.
good. They really tried.
Yes.
Really, they really
Come
did their
on,
best.
everybody, give them thumbs up, give them a bunch of hearts. Just come on. How
It
about you,
wasn't. It
Candace?
wasn't easy.
Um, it
Well,
was easy because I threw myself into church, work, my daughter. Because I'm sentimental and I'm super emotional, it was weighing on me. It was chipping away. And we had one time where Philip had texted me and I hadn't heard from him in like a couple hours, which was for us a long time. And he said, "Oh, I was hanging out with Emma." And I had never heard of an Emma. So I was like, "Well, who is Emma?" He goes, "Well, we just went out to dinner. I'll have to call you right back." And
who is that?
I hmm
So,
Yes,
so
Philip. Tell us, who is Emma?
I flew off the
so
handle.
Ima was a friend, but his name was Emmanuel, but we call him Ima. So when I
Oh,
say Ima, Candace was thinking that it was a woman, and she started her thing
yeah.
like, girl. I'm like,
I'm like,
no.
"You haven't called me in so many hours." Whew. So I read it wrong. But we had talked about that, and we're pretty straightforward. Like, when you're married, like, we had had this experience. Now I had been there twice. Like, it was a honeymoon every time I went to Ghana. Like, I haven't seen you in a year and a half. I'm here for 2 weeks, and then to leave abruptly, it's like you're not. I don't think you're meant to be married and be apart from somebody for years at a time. And unless you're in the service or there's different circumstance. But um, I would say probably after the second trip, I just felt comfortable knowing that that wasn't Philip's heart. I know that we're human beings, and
It
um,
wasn't easy.
but he would tell me, like, this girl didn't know I was married, or this girl knew I was married, and these ladies at the church were asking me where my wife was. And I think that was a big thing, is people were questioning, "Well, where's your wife?
Yeah.
I see a ring, but where's your wife? And
Where's
she
your-
hasn't been here, and we haven't seen her, and now it's been weeks, or we saw her when she came to visit." And so it kind of, the perspective on their end is, here I've kind of abandoned my husband. Like, I don't come see him enough. But they don't know how much it took for Philip and I to get Candace over there. And in the meantime, now we've been denied for this petition. And in our situation, once we were denied, we can't do anything. We had to
Unless they
wait
return the case.
for them to get the paperwork back to America. And that usually,
Takes-
it's supposed to take maybe 6 to 9 months. But another year had passed by, and that was our hardest year. So now it's 2017. I've seen him
Oh my
twice,
God.
and there's so many things in between, but there's a lot. But so 2017, I go visit Philip. I went to go visit Philip for our anniversary, 3-year wedding anniversary. I stayed for 2 weeks. And at this point, I'm just thinking, I'm going to have to move. Me and my daughter I'm going to move to Ghana.
Mhm.
My mom had wisdom in saying, "You go get situated if that's what you do, and leave your baby here until you get very solid, and then transition your family." So this trip, I had shipped everything I own. I either sold it or shipped it to Ghana. I was really standing in faith that, like, I knew God was going to bring us together. And I had had a couple dreams about being in certain places. And then Philip tells me, "Well, we can move into my house in Ghana." I'm like, okay, not the house that I stayed at, but Philip had been putting his money together and building a house for us to one day spend time in, thinking, so I'm like, "God, this is it. You have blessed us with this opportunity." My daughter's father was, we were in such a great space, and we got her, we both agreed that we would let her come, and she got her visa, her passport.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, God, like, I didn't wait long enough. And this is now, a couple of years past, and me and Philip were like, this is what it's going to look like for us.
I've grown in ministry. Like, I'm like, now I'm gonna settle in Ghana because my wife is willing to come. So I was putting in so much energy and so much effort, and I'm like, I'm excited. Oh, it wasn't easy. Like the question that you asked, a lot of women are gonna walk to me. At times I see other women, and in my head I'm like, just that you are beautiful doesn't mean that another woman is not beautiful. Or just that I'm handsome doesn't stop another man to be handsome. So
Yeah.
what keeps us together was beyond
Physical. at that point. All we had was communication. So I go to Ghana. I'm unpacking boxes in this house. We went to go look at schools for my daughter. Whirlwind. Where am I going to work? How do we get this? How do we get that? What about life insurance? I mean, health insurance, car. It was almost too much to try to fit into this trip. And so when I got back to Phoenix, we just started doing piece by piece by piece. Found really great schools. We found places that I could work. I wanted to start a business. And so a lot of the stuff that I was shipping to Ghana were things for me to sell and open a store, and things for a house and furniture. And when when I was there, Philip had, started furnishing the rooms, and that was going to be my life. And I thought, God opens doors sometimes, and I don't know if this is our door, but it's opening, and things seem to be falling into place. So here, the year ends. I think I even started telling people, like, I'm probably going to be leaving to Ghana. I had actually set a date, and we were putting things in motion.
Right.
So 2018, the new year, I had gone to visit. My grandma had celebrated her 80th birthday. And in my mind, I'm like, this will be probably one of the last times for a long time I'm going to get to travel back east to visit my family. I didn't say it, but I felt like that at the time. So I went to this trip, and I remember talking to my Aunt Vanessa, and, she was taking me back to the airport to come home after the trip. And we were talking about faith and how things aren't what they seem, and even when you think you know what God's about to do, like, he'll blow your mind, and how good he had been to our family. So I get to the airport in Washington, D.C. I've been married now for almost 4 years, and I'm waiting for my plane so I can come home to Phoenix. Hadn't heard anything from the embassy, and check my email, and it's like U.S. Embassy, and I'm like, uh-oh. Like, finally, I look at this email, and it said that we're sending you this notice to let you know, after careful revision, there was an error made in your case, and we'd like to appeal the judgment, but you need to file a formal appeal and go through the motions. And I don't even know how I got on the plane, because people probably thought this lady is crazy. I'm praying with Philip on the phone in the airport. I'm walking through my terminal like, God is so good. I was so excited. I'm like, wow, here I'm shipping my stuff across the world, and God's working. God was working the whole time, putting the right people in place. So I go back to work, and I'm just like, I don't know what this means. I'm shifting. I was going to leave the country. And this lady walks up to me, like, my first day back to work. And she said, she's like, how's your husband doing? Did he get here? And I'm like, oh, I couldn't remember her. And I'm like, how does she know about Philip? And she could probably sense, and she goes, 3 years ago, you helped me. And she's like, you were so sweet to me. I remember you telling me that you were going to leave the country to go meet this guy. And I saw you, and I saw that you had a wedding ring on the next time I came in, but I didn't get a chance to talk to you. She goes, so I figured you got married. And she's like, but how is your husband? And I'm like, whoa, like, I don't even remember talking to her that deep. And I said, you know what? I said, I actually just got an appeal for, she goes, his petition. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, I don't think you remember. She goes, you told me he was from Ghana. She goes, and my husband was from another country. She said, so I know what that feels like. And she started writing something down on a piece of paper, and she handed it to me. And I was like, what? I open it up, and it's a phone number to this woman named Maria. She said she's the best immigration lawyer out there. And I thought, I've done the lawyer thing. Like, it's expensive. Like, So I called the number anyway the next day because it was like, Holy Spirit, just call, just call. It pulled and pulled and pulled. And so I called this woman, and her receptionist said, it's $100 an hour to have a consultation with the lawyer. And I'm like, that's okay. And I said, I appreciate your time, hung up. 5 minutes later, this woman calls and she goes, is this Candace? And I said, yeah. She goes, this is Maria. She goes, I just saw that you called.
Oh, Candace, I think you're frozen. Go ahead and log off and log back on because I think that you're probably frozen on your end too. So go ahead and log off and then I'll bring you back on. You guys, okay, this is amazing. This is amazing. Are you crying? I know somebody is crying. While we're waiting for them to come back on, I love that Candace's mom is watching, Evelyn Gaskin, and so I'm going to read her comment while we're waiting for them to come back on. She said, I pray. But I have never prayed as hard as I prayed when Candace said she was moving to Ghana and taking my grandbaby. Grandparents, are there any grandparents watching? Can you imagine? Paula, they'll be back. They're going to log back on. But can you imagine not only your daughter moving to another country, um, to be with someone you haven't even met, but your daughter is taking your granddaughter. So two of your girls are going overseas to this other country to be with someone you haven't met. So she said, I pray, but I have never prayed as hard as I prayed when Candace said she was moving to Ghana and taking my grandbaby. I could not and did not want to wrap my mind around this. It took me almost a year to release this whole thing to God. That's real. That's real. Phill is here, and my grandbaby didn't move to Ghana. Oh, I think I scrolled up a little bit. Um, Phill and Candace, come back. We want to hear how it ended up. She said, Phill is here and my grandbaby didn't move to Ghana. Look at God. All things work together for our good. So awesome. Hopefully Candace and Phill are coming back. But this totally reminds me of a song that I know a lot of churches are singing right now. That song, Waymaker, especially the part, even when I don't see it, you're working. Come on, sing. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. I love it. Yes, I love it. So this is just really like a prime example of that. Even when you don't see it, like he didn't see it turning around, and she's shipping her stuff to Ghana, and he's buying a house for her there, and having no idea that God is like, oh, slow your roll,
Yeah.
my
Miracle
daughter.
working God.
So awesome. So thanks for coming back, Candace and
Thank you.
Philip.
Sorry
So
about that.
no, it
So,
happened.
whew, um, so this lawyer, Maria, she calls me back and she's, oh, can you hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So she says, I heard that you called, but my friend told me that she.
Oh, we lost them again. No. Come back. So I would love for you guys to, they're going to come back. Do not leave. So I would love for you guys to post in the comments, like, what is a time? Is there a time that you were believing God to do something that seemed impossible? tell us how God turned that thing around. And make sure that you share this video while we're waiting for them to come back. They are going to come back. But share a time that you were waiting for God and it seemed like it wasn't going to turn around. Share that in the comments, and then make sure you share this video, because I know there is somebody that is not watching right now, that may never watch this video, but they will be on your wall, and tag them in this or put them in the comments and let them know, like, God can turn anything around. Watch this video. So you're back. Candace, tell us
Back.
what happened with this attorney or with this woman that called you right back. Called you right back. That's amazing.
Calls me right back. She tells me her friend had told her that she gave her number out. She said, "Can you tell me about your situation?" And I was thinking, can I afford to tell you about my situation? um, and so I was rambling, trying to tell her really quick what had happened. She said, "Here's what I'm going to do." She said, "I'm going to make some time for you." She said, "Can you meet me?" And we met at a Starbucks, and she said, "Bring every document, everything with you, and the appeal." And I'm still like pensive, like, oh, how much? And she said, "I gotta go, but I'll meet you X, Y, and Z." I pulled boxes of documents, because when you apply to petition for someone to come to this country, they need, it's like beyond a mortgage. They need your tax documents, they need photos, they need statements of character witness, they need people who can vouch for your relationship. They needed my coworkers to write statements of character, and I mean, so much to get somebody here. Marriage licenses, official documents, Philip's birth certificate. So we had just been all this stuff every time we went to file a petition. So I brought everything, and I met this woman at the Starbucks, and she was the sweetest lady. And she said, before we even look at anything in this box, she said, "I only need to know what you want me to know about you, but I want you to know about me that I'm going to make this happen for you guys, because everything I've looked at that you've sent me so far, there's no reason for denial, because this whole time we're just like, what is going on?" She said, "They're denying you guys based on the fact that you don't live and cohabitate together. You don't have joint bank accounts." I'm like, he doesn't have a social. I don't have residency.
What?
We had all this stuff. Exactly. We're not trying to scam each other. Like, here you have the legit situation, and right. Things that make you like crazy. What are they talking about? And we had 30 days to respond and provide proof that this was, in fact, our situation, or they would terminate the case. So this woman met with me. I mean, we met probably twice a week, putting stuff together. And I'm telling Philip, with furniture, like, let's hold on, because
I was not even ready to cut off it. I'm like, I'm ready to settle down in Ghana, and
have
like,
our family.
I've gotten everything together, like invested a lot, I've really invested a lot
in us staying there.
So even when Candace was talking about this reaffirm and all of it, I'm like, wow, I'm not, in my mind, I'm like, I'm not ready to come. But one day I was at church, and they talked about God can reaffirm you at times. Certain times you need to be reaffirmed for you to be approved. And I'm like, well, maybe this is for me. So I kind of went into agreement with her.
Yeah.
And the day she sent all the packet in was the last day.
Oh, Maria, we were printing documents left and right. She's like, "You don't need this. You didn't need that. Let me grab this."
Wow.
We got that packet. She told me, she's like, "You have until like midnight for the immigration to get this packet." So we were at UPS at like 5 o'clock to make sure it went out like overnight. And hands off. Like, once we sent it out, But it was a different vibe this time. It wasn't like Candace can do it. I can look online. The lawyer that I had before, it was like somebody that God sent us. I didn't go look for her. And this lady remembered me because had been nice to her, and she even checked in with me through this whole 30-day window to see, like, did you get in contact with Maria? And, I'm so happy I was able to help you. And, thank you for being kind. And it's the least I could do for you. And that's another thing. Like, you don't even realize sometimes how you touch people and who in your life is holding on to something that's related to your promise. Because you'll never know. I couldn't even remember. You know how you know somebody, but I couldn't remember. So then we mail the packet off and you wait. And I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, the U.S. Immigration Office said, we got your documents. We will revalidate you guys. We're going to put you through another interview and we'll send you word later. And I fell out. This time I was like, yes, like, God, like I thought I was going to Ghana, but let me see, because he might be able to come here. Like, bam, suddenly. So I'm online and I'm trying to decide, because they have an online system where you go and schedule you track your case and you set your appointment. And Philip's appointment was going to be in Ghana. So I knew I was going to Ghana. I thought I was moving there, but now I'm like, okay, do I move or am I just going to go for a couple weeks to see this case through? And it was without a doubt. I'm like, God, this is our time. Like, I had this peace about me, and I had people, and they know who they are. I couldn't even name all of you guys now, but I have some people that I have met at FCC and that people that I had known before that have rallied around me. And they may not have known everything, but it's like, man, the love that I have for a lot of people, everybody that supported it, because it really took prayers to keep us going and to keep this whole process floating. And it was a beautiful thing. And we had people speak like prophetically. And I had a woman who was so kind to me, never met her. She was a friend of one of my sisters at church. And she said, I don't know what your husband looks like. She goes, but I'm going to tell you now that he's out. She didn't even know we were filing for a petition. She just wanted to talk to me. And she said, I see your husband and he's standing outside of the building. She goes, but there's 2 demons on the top of the building. And she goes, and you have to pray. You have to pray until they fall down, but they're going to fall down. And she's like, I don't know why he's trying to get inside this building. She's like, but he's going to come out with good news. And I'm like,
it haven't been an easy journey.
How did she know?
Stir up, like, our prayer. We have to stir up
prayed.
Our prayer, and in Ghana, the pastor that I used to roll with, like, always we will be doing revival. It's like, Philip, your marriage have to work. You guys have to be together, So always we will be praying. Yeah. And to get an appointment in Ghana, it's not easy. Like interview appointment, it takes months.
Oh, yeah.
To get an interview.
So we got an interview. It took 2 months. 2 months. Before, we'd been waiting years. And every time denied. This time, in 2 months, they scheduled an appointment. And we knew, like, God, this is it. Like, shift. Because no one had seen that. And so I Ghana for his interview in faith. I packed up all my paperwork just in case and took it with me. And I'm like, I'm not going to forget a thing. This is it. And we got to Ghana, and I got to Ghana. And I go unpack all my boxes. I go look through all the clothes, all my stuff, my baby's toys, like all this stuff in this house. And I said, it's funny how you think you're gonna settle down somewhere. Anyway, we'll get back to that. So we go to Philip's interview, and just in expectation, like we knew.
So she cannot enter the embassy. Always, I'm the only one who has to enter the embassy. They don't allow your spouse to come in.
Just
you
the
have
person
to come
calls.
and face the counselors, because so always I have to go and face them. Yeah,
Candace, you're
Candace will
back
be
in
outside.
Ghana again
She's
now.
outside in the car.
I'm in Ghana. I flew back to Ghana 2 months later for this interview because I
Third
could not. This is my fourth
Fourth
trip
time.
now.
Wow. Woo!
Fourth trip.
Hey.
And that's a blessing in itself because I never thought I would leave the country. Like, to travel was such a blessing
One time.
in itself.
Yeah.
And this last time, like she came getting a one-way ticket because we never knew what was
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
happen. So she got a one-way ticket. If I got denied, that means we have to figure out how we're gonna start a life together in Ghana. Because I'm like, I'm
Wow.
not gonna let her go again. So Minister Gaskin will be by herself because I'm keeping her daughter.
Till
That's funny.
she was gonna bring Kaylin. She was gonna bring Kaylin once we got settled, but Kaylin didn't need to come that trip. So we go to the interview. I have to sit in the car. The embassy, for security, they only let the people they call in go. Sat in the car for 5 hours, and I was
It's a
just
long
like,
way.
God is gonna do it. And I was
hours?
convinced.
Yeah.
There's hundreds of people
they
that
doing
go
for
in
5
every
hours?
day. Oh,
A
there's
lot
a
of people
queue.
go for interviews. So thing can be legit, but they can say no.
It's it's not a whim, but there's no standard protocol. There's not a checklist that's consistent. It's just situational. So you have hundreds of people in this situation that are told no, and sometimes it's not valid. And that's why our case got appealed, because they didn't, when it came back to the offices in America, they couldn't find reason for it to be denied. So Philip comes out of the embassy, and I hopped out that car, and I'm like, and he had no expression. And I'm like, no, like God already told us we were new. And I forgot one piece of paper. The one thing they asked Philip for hadn't been updated. We had submitted it the last two interviews, but this interview, they wanted a new version. So I think I was stunned, but I wasn't disappointed.
Candace,
I'm wrapping it up.
I can't take it.
this can only be God.
But let me.
I can imagine how you guys felt, because I feel like I'm about to throw this laptop. Like,
No, I was pissed off. Like, even inside the embassy, I'm like, what do they need? I want to be with my wife.
But we got in the car and we prayed. And we had nothing to do but pray, because I was in Ghana for 3 weeks, and this was the whole trip. And I remember we prayed on the way back home, and we sat in the car, and I don't think we spoke. We started singing.
She was supposed to come back to the United States.
No, before that. Oh, but yeah.
Yeah, so she was supposed to come back to the United States, and I'm like, well, now for us to get another appointment, it takes months to get an interview. So the counselor is like, well, once you come, maybe you might talk to another counselor. And in my head, once you meet the same person, at least it will encourage you. He or she will go like, oh, I know you. So you brought the document, so it will be easy. But the counselor told me, maybe you might meet another person. And I'm like,
Start all over
once they
again.
get to know that your spouse is not in the country, they can deny you again.
But I was there, and so we sang in the car. You sang. And I thought, you know what?
Yeah, I love to sing in my language.
you sing?
I do.
Huh?
Oh, he sings.
Well, what did you sing?
Yadawasia ensado. Yeyiwaya ensado. Uye nyamia wama yediye. Uni nyamia ode kobada.
What does it mean?
Yadawasia ensado. God is always with us, and always He takes care of us, and He takes care of everything. He takes us and brings us back all the time. So always I just sing to encourage myself.
Oh, It was like a really powerful moment. Like that's what I remembered.
Yeah.
But I got on the phone. I was like, I have to call somebody, and we're just stunned. So I called. I found a phone number, and I mean, I don't even know how much I was Googling, and I found a phone number to the embassy, and it was a direct line because I was in the country in Ghana. And I get on the phone, and the lady says, which you never get through. Let me just preface that. This number doesn't work.
Come on.
But I got through, and I said, I have to reschedule an appointment. I flew across the world for my husband's interview, our third interview. Our case has been denied twice. Our case has been appealed, and I'm here because my husband's going to get his visa. And she said, ma'am, our interviews are months out. She goes, so you're going to have to go back home and get online and wait until there's an interview. And I'm like, there's no way. I'm here. And she said, hold on for 1 second. And she got back on the phone. She goes, I was supposed to leave Ghana. This was Wednesday. I was supposed to leave Ghana Friday. She goes, can you come back tomorrow for an interview? And I'm like, tomorrow? And I said, whatever the date, it was August 17th. I said, tomorrow? She said, yeah. She goes, there's a cancellation and there's an appointment available. Oh, and I'm like,
we are like, pick it.
Take it. I was like, I'll be there. And I'm like, speechless. And I mean, God does things sometimes that we get comfortable with. Like I woke up, I ate, you get in a flow, but it took these things through the last 4 years for me to be like, man, those little things, these people we met, these interactions, our patience
was being tested.
Our prayers, are developing a relationship with God and each other and pushing through this. Like when people say I do, and for better or for worse, sometimes you think your better might be this or your worse might be completely different. But it's like, man, like when that happened, it was like, this
for
might
better,
be our worst,
better.
For better. But
no, for better, for worse.
You're right.
Always I'm like, for better, for better. For better, for worse, it's not part of the equation.
We made it through something huge. So we got the piece of paper together, reprinted it out, and I don't think we slept because it was just like we were in awe of God. And when I say in awe of God, like
absolutely,
we stayed up all night talking back. Do you remember when we did this, and this? That's because it got us here. And do you remember when we met that person and they told us to call this number? That's why we had it in our phone. And we were just backtracking this beautiful tangle of how like God had intertwined so many things to make that moment and that call happen. And it was like amazing.
It was really a huge deal.
So we go back the next morning and I was singing and I was like, it's done. It is done. So, there's no way I'm going home.
When I was driving to the interview and Candace was sitting next to me in the morning, I was kind of nervous because this is a huge deal. Like this visa, they approving me would make a huge decision. It's either Candace is going to stay in Ghana or I will pack and come to the United States. So once I got inside, I was nervous when I parked the car. I'm like, Candace, I've not eaten. Candace like, go, because I'm like, I don't want to go inside alone. So I got inside and the same counselor who interviewed me was there. I have to follow the queue. He interviewed almost 20 people. He denied everyone. So when I was sitting down, I'll go into the restroom and go pee. I'm like, I don't even want to talk to him because this man is denying everyone. Then I was the last person. He called my last name, Dankwah Phill, and I walked. I went there. He only asked me 4 questions. How long have you guys been married? Where is your wife? I'm like, she's outside. No, he asked me, when was the last time you did see your wife? I'm like, she's outside waiting for me. What's the name of her daughter? I mentioned it.
And he said yes. All the documents. He didn't even want to see one piece of paper. And every time that we didn't have enough proof, we didn't have enough proof, not enough evidence. The 2 lawyers now,
All
even
my evidence. I was holding it like this.
had a briefcase of paperwork.
I'm like, this my proof for you, counselor, for you to go through.
Didn't ask for one piece of paper. He asked for your passport.
He's like, no, he did not. He's like, I'm approving your case. You know, are you ready to be with your wife? I'm like, yeah, I'm approving your petition. And I'm not going to forget his face.
Oh,
So Philip walks out.
my God.
So when he said, I was still holding my passport in my pocket and I was walking away, then he called me. He's like, come with your passport. I'm like, okay.
You forgot. So I'm in the car, though. I don't know any of this has happened. And I'm thinking, I fell asleep. And I wake up and I'm like, whew.
6 hours.
6 hours? So long, I fell asleep. I ate lunch, but I wasn't nervous. I wasn't nervous this time. I was like, this too much has happened for God. Like the way he's lined this up, I already knew. But I woke up and I had intended on videotaping Philip walk out with the like paper saying yes. I'm waking up like, whoa. I'm like, where is he? I was so out of it. And as soon as I got out the car, I see Philip coming across the street from the embassy. And I'm like, oh, he's not smiling. He's not dancing. He's not singing. And I run up to him and he holds up the paper. And it was like, we're both in the middle of the but people who had been outside are
some of them are being
singing.
denied.
Yeah, but people who had been denied are still outside and families are out there. It's this courtyard. People start singing and cheering and praising God. And some people are crying and like, you know, he'll do it. And I'm like, wow, they didn't even get a visa, but they were so excited for us. So excited. But we were stunned. Like, whoa. We had imagined it. We had prayed for it. We had done long distance for so long. And when it happened, it still is surreal. So here we are now, 7 months later, Philip's here. So much more that has happened, but it's like God is God, whether you have to redevelop faith, re-engage it.
God does not change, but we human beings do change. So
And
we have to depend on God.
We've had highs, we've had lows, we've had a learning curve and culture to adjust to, but a lot of it we had talked for so long and gotten really good with communication that I feel like it's helped us now. All those phone calls, it's easy for us to communicate and express what we need, what we don't, how we feel. We have a really great support network of people around us. We're really, well.
I mean, it's not a lot of people who have this patience. So anytime I look at her, it makes me love her more because, you know, she have this patience. It's not a lot of people who have that patience.
You too. You too.
Yeah.
It's
not a lot of people.
But we've grown a lot through this process, and for anybody hoping and praying for anything, like we stand in faith with you. It's not going to look like what you think it's going to look like. And that's the thing we learned. We've gone from country to country. How is it going to work? And it didn't even happen in the time we thought, because every time, but it will come. It will come. And whatever does come will be the way it's meant to be for you. Yeah. And you can't compare yourself to other people, because we had to go through all of these things for us to appreciate what we have now. Like, it wouldn't have worked for us. We both had come from relationships where we got physical too quick. Now we had no choice but to get to know each other and take our time really understanding what it meant to be committed to this person and not let physicality get in the way, and to really be committed to like each other. So many things. And if I hadn't gotten in the situation where I had to really depend on God, I don't know that I would have had the same faith. It wouldn't have been tested maybe at this point and in this time and made me fall in love with God again and get a relationship spiritually for both of us. And we had the parallel us finding God at the same time in different places to where now, like, we're
It makes
growing
us
together.
love.
Oh, it does. But the testimony of what we've been through has,
A lot have happened. A lot. A lot. Like this time or everything that me and Candice have been through, well, I've really learned a lot through the process. I've really, really learned a lot. And at times I'm like, before you will get to your destination, you have to go through a whole lot of things, the ups and downs. You know, it hasn't been an easy
but
journey.
it's not over.
Yeah.
That's the best thing. It's not over. It is not over.
Wow.
Forever and ever.
Wow.
So I always tell Candace that faith make things possible, but it doesn't make things easy.
Right.
So once people
Yeah.
don't see it easy, it doesn't mean that it's not gonna happen. It will surely happen, because faith was the only currency I was having, because that was the only currency used to buy things from heaven.
Yes.
So
You better preach, Philip. Wow. Guys, that is such a good story.
Yeah, thank you for staying on with us that long. I didn't realize.
No, thank you guys for staying on. That is tremendous.
It
Wow,
was
I
awesome.
have so many questions, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna post them in the comments. So Philip, Candace, whenever you guys have time, you don't have to stay up and do it tonight, but I just have some other questions that people have sent me, and so as you have
Okay.
time to go through, if you don't mind, and just answer. You guys that are watching, if you have questions for them, feel free to put them in the comments, and as they have time, they'll go through and answer them. But this is so amazing. Candace, will you, since
Oh,
since
thank
I've
you.
known you, and because I we knew of each other, but we didn't know each other until this whole
Right.
happening. And so um and so it's just been really cool to watch. But ever since I met you and learned of you guys' story, I've met other women and other men that are waiting also, that are waiting for their spouse. I have a friend, Tombra, Oya Tombra, that's probably watching right now. She and her husband, Saifa, went through the same thing, and now he's here.
Wow.
oh
And
wow.
it's just so cool to see. And now they have two boys. They have two boys. They live back in Iowa, where I'm from. So hopefully they'll jump on
Good.
and comment. Maybe we can get them to share
Say-
their story. So it's like I've met other couples since meeting you, Candace, that are waiting and believing. And so they may be watching right now. So do you mind praying? And not only for those that are waiting for their loved one to come over, people have their mother that they want to come, their siblings that they want to come. But not only that, but just anybody that's waiting and standing in faith for anything. Could you just pray for them real quick before we get
Yeah.
off?
Oh, dear Heavenly Father God, it's a blessing to have this opportunity, God, to share the things that you've done for our family. We know, God, that there are other people that are in the same position, Lord, and we know that everything you do is beautiful and serves a purpose. Lord, we pray for those who are waiting and in expectation, God, and who have trials and tribulations and stress, frustration, anger, disappointment. God, I pray more for their comfort, God, and that you would give them the wisdom and the clarity to understand, Lord, that there are things working that they can't see, they can't understand, that there's things getting ready to come that will be greater than their expectation. For them to have support networks, for them to have people around them, Lord, that would build them up and keep them strong, keep them focused, God, on chasing you and chasing all the things, God, that you've promised, and knowing that in faith these things will all come to pass. We pray for the families, Lord, that are separated by this, God, that you would continue to give them support. There's a lot of things, God, that people don't know how to ask for, and they don't know what to pray for, Lord, but we pray that you would comfort all their needs. God, I give you so much glory. So sweet, God, at how you pick things and put them together for us, God. You know what's best for us, and you've done so many great things, and we ask, God, that you would continue to strengthen those around us.
Amen.
Lord, we thank you. We
In
thank you.
Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Mm,
Philip, I would love
mm,
for you to pray in
Okay,
whatever
let's pray.
language you pray.
mm.
Alright. Ɔsorosoro hene ɛndɛ nnwumere nso yɛda wo ase yɛhyɛ wo din anuonyam. Woso kyɛn wɔn nyinaa yɛde yɛn ho to yɛn ho so a nneɛma di boa yɛn na ewie yɛn yie. Yɛgyae abusua nyinaa hyɛ wo nsa ama wɔn abusua ɛwɔ amanɔne a wɔpɛ sɛ wɔbɛka wɔn ho. Awurade sɛdeɛ wobue kwan maa yɛn no, Jesus Christ bue kwan maa wɔn. Father God, let your light shine on them so that everything that they're supposed to get, Father God, they will get. Open doors so that families will join together. Li kambasiru handasi bakadiha. Menim sɛ wayɛ awie meda wase. Ɛwɔ Jesus Christ dim sɛ ndɛ nnwumere nso wetie me mpaebɔ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Wow. Thank you guys so much. So
Thank
much.
you.
And congratulations. It's been 7 months now, and he's here in Arizona. He's with you, and your family is beautiful. And I'll
Thank
never,
you.
Thank
never
you.
forget. I'll never forget that Tuesday that we came out of choir rehearsal and we had only seen him on social media. And now I'm going to cry. It was so amazing to just see this man that
Yeah,
and I know Philip, you were like, what in the world? Because we're all like, Philip!
I
You
know.
had never
I
seen
do
or met
remember.
us, but we had seen you and had been praying for you to come. And it was just
No, thank you so much.
tremendous to come out of rehearsal and see this man that we've been praying for, walking through our church. It was like, come on, man, come on. It was so good. So
Wow.
we're so glad you went to band camp like right away. Candace, you get the Wife of the Year
I
award.
know
You were like,
everything
my
was
man's going to,
happening.
yeah.
I wanted him to, build community and be comfortable. Ah, so much has
So
happened. Yeah,
good.
we're
So,
so.
wow.
It's like, yeah, you
So
don't even
awesome.
have words to say, but we found him. Yeah, God is good. God has been really, really good.
Wow.
Yeah, Candace always said that I was gonna be part of men's camp. You know, she always
Yeah.
said it with faith, and I'm like, wow, I'm already here for men's camp. So
Thank you,
that
God.
that God has been good. I mean, all glory goes to God. I mean, He have been working for us even till now.
Yeah,
It's not by our power, so we just thank
Wow.
Him.
yeah. Very, very grateful. Yeah,
Wow.
but thank you again for letting us
Amen.
share our
God.
story.
We already feel like we are in the studio.
Oh, Philip is
We already feel
as his
like we are in the
prophecy. Yeah,
studio.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Yeah,
it'll get
Philip
there.
was
It'll get.
prophesying.
She's on it.
Yeah, Philip was prophesying that I'm gonna have my own studio and this is gonna be a show, like a real show. And I receive that. I believe it. That's
Yeah,
exactly
amen.
Amen.
what I love and
Amen.
want. So thank you so much, Philip and Candace, for speaking that over me. You guys are a blessing to me, and thank you
Oh,
We love you.
for tonight with us. So come on,
of
guys, you know
course.
what to do. Let's come on. Let's
How
give
do
them
we do it?
a bunch of hearts. Yes, hearts, thumbs
Crazy.
up. That's how we say thank you on Live at 8:05. Live at 8:05. So I'm
Woo!
so glad that they're with
You
you
can
guys.
see.
I'm excited. I'm gonna announce who our next. Come on, Bill. So yeah, I'm gonna announce who our guest is gonna be next week. Right now, I'm very, very excited to have a very special woman on live at 8:05 Thursday. So set your alarm, save your date, save the date, 8:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11:05 Eastern Standard Time, and Central. Y'all know what time it is. It is going to be the one, the only pastor, author, Erica Renee Moore. I am so stoked to
Woo!
have Pastor Erica Renee Moore on Live at 805 next weekend, you guys. And the cool thing about it is she has given me permission to interview her, and I'm not going to ask the typical questions. Like, we want to get to know her. We want to know, who is the woman? Who's Erica? You know, not who's Pastor Erica, not who's author Erica Renee. Who is Erica?
Right.
Tell us about yourself. Tell us what's your favorite music? What's your favorite food? What's, where were you born? Do you have any siblings? What are their names? And so I'm excited to have her on. I'm grateful for the permission that she has given me to ask her questions. She's so transparent, such an open book. And so I can't wait to see what we get to learn about the woman behind the titles. So make sure that you join me next Thursday. But in the meantime, one last time, lots of thumbs and hearts. Please share this video on your wall. Your tribe needs to watch this video. And yeah, I love you guys. Love you, Philip. Love you, Candace.
We love you.
Love you, Angela. Love you guys.
Love
Have a
everyone.
good night.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next Thursday at 8:05 p.m. for another episode of Live at 8:05. Hope you were empowered, encouraged, and uplifted. Bye.